Well, hello there. Welcome in. A Utes Game Day on ESPN 700 is live. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, of course, live up on YouTube right now as well, because we're in studio. So it's easy for us to do it there. We'll send it over to Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, Stevenson Sylvester. They're, a mile away at Rice Eccles Stadium, awaiting kickoff of Colorado and Utah. 8:15 is when they'll go to battle, the Utes and the Buffs, a Big 12 matchup on the Hill. 2 hours until we hand it off to those guys. It's this guy, Trevor Reilly, myself, Porter Larson, brought to you by our friends at Outlaw Distillery, the official spirits provider of our ESPN 700 pregame show and our ESPN 700 VIP tailgate, which, if you stop by Sound Warehouse this week, or you were lucky enough to find one of our VIP tailgate passes in some other form or fashion, they'll have Outlaw Distillery up there for you to try amazing drinks like their honey bourbon, vodka, spiced rum, coffee rum. They just came out with this new barrel-proof bourbon, so get there and hang out with our friends at Outlaw Distillery. And then during the week, go and stop by. They have a cool venue, a cool spot. Take a tour and tasting at their place. It's Outlaw Distillery, outlawdistillery.com. And, hey, they're found at all your state liquor stores, which I'm sure a lot of you needed last Sunday after the Utes lost on Saturday in the 103rd installment of the Holy War. Trevor Reilly, 24-21. Utah falls to BYU. And, listen, it happens. You can't win them all. But that one stung a little bit, I think, for Utah fans. And listen, every rivalry game does, but that one felt like it hit a little harder. Why is that, Trevor?
We had 6 turnovers, and we still almost won the game. I think the muff punt was really the turning point. I know it was early on, but that was just a momentum killer. But I think it hurt because we were right there, and it looked like our roster was better than theirs at times. And then it also looked like, some guys were either throwing the game or just having the worst game of their lives. And then at times you see some coaching decisions that some people don't agree with. And then you see, special teams errors. And it's just a game. It was a game of follies for me, and we were still in it.
Are you ready to relive it?
I don't know. I don't want to watch it again if that's what you're asking.
We don't have to watch it, but how about the call from one Bill Riley?
Oh, here we go.
Of course, Utah and BYU, the 103rd installment of the Holy War, 24-21, the final score.
Utah fans, good evening, and welcome to Provo, Utah, and to LaVell Edwards Stadium. It's the Utes and the Cougars for the 103rd time all-time tonight. Bachmeier to pass. Martin leaks out of the backfield. Pressure coming. Down goes Bachmeier! John Henry Daly got him! The former Cougar wraps up Bachmeier and drops him, and that'll bring up 4th down. Devin will operate out of the shotgun on 3rd down and 4. Utah number 1 in the Big 12 converting. That pass is complete to Davis, 25-30, and out he goes to about the 33-yard line. A gain of 24 yards for Ryan Davis and a Utah first down. 3 receivers now, 4 on the left-hand side. Bray comes in motion. They're going to hand it to Daniel Bray this time. He's got positive yardage, weaving in and out of traffic. 40, 35, 30, 25, and out of bounds at the BYU 21-yard line. That's a 29-yard gallop for Daniel Bray. Tanner Wall saved a touchdown by pushing him out of bounds. Devin by himself in the shotgun. Spring from the right-hand side. Brings the man in motion. Hands it to that man in motion. Daniel Bray to the outside. Won't get there. Excellent tackle in the open field by Maury Bamba. And BYU's defense makes the biggest play of the night so far, stopping Utah on 4th down. Martin and Preston Rex in the backfield right now. 2 tights and 2 wides here for BYU on 2nd down and 9. Bachmeier looking to throw into the flat. He's got a man out there. That's Rex. He's wide open up that far sideline. 35, 30, 45 to the 50 and into Utah territory at the Utah 41-yard line. There was one defender out there. He was blocked, and Rex got a big play. 4th down and 1, BYU at the Utah 32-yard line. Barron, the place kicker, can make him from here, but they're going to go for it. L.J. Martin in the shotgun. Lined up next to Barrett Bachmeier. Tight end comes in motion. Bachmeier hands to Martin. Did he get there? I don't think he did. Maybe second effort gets him there. He's going to be very close. I think he's going to be short.
Yep.
Utah defense says he's short, and he is. Both defenses come up big. Utah's defense will get it back to the offense. Bear in the shotgun. Martin next to him. Play action again, throwing to the outside. That one's caught. That's a touchdown. Chase Roberts. It was an excellent throw and an excellent grab. He beats Scooby Davis for 6, and BYU strikes first here on a Saturday night. It gets loud. Davis comes in motion, 4th down and 7. Devin changing the play with 15 on the play clock. He's got plenty of time. Rogers in the backfield. BYU showing pressure. Now they back out of it. Devin to the outside looking. Incomplete. Tried to get it to Tobias Merriweather. Back shoulder throw. He couldn't hold on. And BYU gets it back. Game clock rolling, 8:05. Play clock reset, 3rd down and 3 for BYU. Kingston in motion. Orbits back around. Bachmeier going to keep it himself, and he's not going anywhere. He is dropped by Alinki Biamahi. That is going to be a sack, and Utah's defense comes up with a big play. They wanted to get that ball to Parker Kingston or have him run it himself, and Biamahi was waiting for him. 3-yard loss on the sack and 4th down. 24 yards on the play. Dampier to pass again. Looking, going to step, try to run, and now he's got running room. 20, 15, to the outside, 10. Inside he goes and down to the 8-yard line. Devin Dampier taken down by Satawala, but not before he picks up 26 yards, and into the red zone they go. J.J. Buchanan in the ball game. They like to throw it up to him here in the red zone. He's out wide with Larry Simmons. Davis to the left-hand side. 2nd down and goal. Looking to throw. Now scrambling to his right. He's got a man wide open. In the end zone. Caught. Touchdown. Ryan Davis from 11 yards out. And Utah finds the end zone for the first time tonight. And they're a point after away from tying it up here in Provo. Vanderhaar will rugby it out, kick it away. Carvalho is going to come up and take it and nearly fumble it, and he does, and BYU says they have it. Do they? They're going to unpile it now at the 40-yard line. It's BYU football. What was he doing, Scott? Just fair catch that. All you've got to do is fair catch it.
Yeah, I think he needs to get away from it. He was never in a position that ball.
Ruling on the field is a muff, recovered by BYU. 1st down, BYU.
It'll be a 25-yard field goal, right up Broadway, middle of the field here for Will Farron. Farron, 12 of 15 this year, was perfect on his last 25 before he missed 3 a couple weeks ago. Vanderhaar will hold. Good snap, good hold. The kick is away, and it's good. 3 seconds remain. 10-7 BYU. Utah 3 out of 7 on 3rd down. Dampier by himself at the gun. 4-man rush. A lot of time for Devin. Now he's going to throw it downfield and caught by Bentley. 40-45. Down into the 50 and down to the BYU 44-yard line. Then he laterals it. He's got a man in field. That's Tobias Merriweather. All the way to the BYU 25. I don't know if he lateraled that or if he fumbled it, but Tobias Merriweather was there to scoop it up, and Utah has its biggest play of the night. Wow. A chance to tie the game. They're going to kick 4th down and 3. It's a long way to go.
Yeah, I don't know about this. It almost speaks to, hey, we're not really confident in our kicker.
4th down and 3 for Utah. They're 0 for 2 tonight. Daniel Bray in motion. Dampier keeps it himself. He pushes the pile. Does he have 1st down yardage? I think he does. We'll see. BYU says he does not.
No, he's got to get to the line. He's got to get to the 5.
He was stopped just short of the 5-yard line. What are we going to have? BYU football. In the backfield with Rogers. tight formation. Bray takes the handoff. Daniel Bray, 45-40 to the outside. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown! Touchdown! Daniel Bray with a house call. 49 yards up the BYU sideline and into the Cougar end zone for a touchdown. Utah lines up near the line of scrimmage, stacking back. Going to hand that ball to Parker Kingston coming around the outside edge. Kingston's got the 10, he's got the 5, he's got the corner of the end zone, touchdown. And BYU's back in front here with 11:19 to play. Fly sweep to Kingston, 12 yards and a touchdown. Second down and 13, back at the 36. Dampier in the gun, he's going to throw. Looking, lots of time, still lots of time. Down the field, has a man open, intercepted. Tanner Wall came away with it. Tobias Merriweather mistimed his jump, and Tanner Wall came down with it for a BYU interception. Second turnover tonight for Utah, and it comes at a terrible time. Two receivers right, two receivers left. Martin is the tailback. Bachmeier can beat you with his legs as well. Utah playing off coverage now. And Bachmeier to throw. He's going to keep it himself. Bachmeier on his feet. 15, 10, 5. Pushing toward the end zone, and he's in. Touchdown. Bear Bachmeier. 22 yards away. The Utah defense couldn't stop him. And BYU may have put this game out of reach tonight. 23-14 with 4:22 to play. Utah lines up in a run formation. Dampier goes under center. Devin, play action, roll to the right. Throwing back to the left, open in the end zone, touchdown, Larry Simmons. And with 1:24 to play, Utah still has life. They've got to kick the PAT, and then it'll be an onside kick. That'll do it. For a third straight time, and in back-to-back years, the BYU Cougars have beaten the University of Utah tonight by a final score of 24-21.
The third straight for BYU in the rivalry matchup, and they stayed perfect on the season, getting to 7-0. And I really don't mean to start the Utes Game Day pregame show with a bunch of BYU stuff, but Bear Bachmeier just hit Parker Kingston for a touchdown. Number 11 BYU takes the lead. 34-27 in the fourth quarter. They got the lead over Iowa State. That's a good game in a tough place to play. So we'll keep an eye on the final 15 minutes of that one. But that was the rivalry game roundup there for you from Bill Reilly, Scott Mitchell, and, of course, Sly on the sideline. Another just really, really classic edition of a classic episode of what is one of the best series in college football, Trevor.
No doubt. I mean, think about the religious, the family, the locality. I mean, I don't know if there's one like it, really.
There's plenty of really good football rivalries, and BYU, man, they're living right. Oh, man.
Pick six, dude.
Satuala just has a pick six, and BYU just like that.
Dude.
The first 80 seconds, Trevor, of the fourth quarter, and it goes from 27-27 to a 2-touchdown lead for BYU. And the Cougars, into the final month or so of the season, have an inside track to get this college football playoff and a Big 12 title game. And here's the deal. They could, at this rate, and with wins like this, they could get to the college football playoff potentially without necessarily winning a Big 12 championship. That's a conversation.
I mean, if you're undefeated and you lose, it's going to be hard to keep you out of there.
Should we turn the page on the BYU stuff?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get to it. No one better to talk Colorado, Utah than my co-host Trevor Reilly. I am Porter Larson, brought to you today by our friends at Outlaw Distillery. Next, what did we learn from the rivalry game? What do the Utes need to do next? That's what we'll get to. Kyle Whittingham press conference a little bit later. Coordinator's Corner with Jason Beck this week a little bit later as well. All still to come on the Utes Game Day pregame show. Bill Reilly, Scott Mitchell, Stevenson Sylvester a little under 2 hours from right now on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is head coach Kyle Whittingham, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Hey, how about Coach Witt bringing us back in on the Utes Game Day pregame show? Kyle Whittingham. Listen to the Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show each and every Tuesday about 6 p.m. right here on ESPN 700. Of course, every Monday, Kyle Whittingham press conference will be there live each and every week right here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. And right now, Trevor Reilly and I live up on YouTube. You can also get the Edition with Devin. That'll be up there on YouTube each and every week. You'll hear a bunch of our stuff there. So head over to the ESPN 700 Sports Utah YouTube page. Check out the latest. Our website to live stream and check out the podcast stuff, all of the above. We are just under 4 hours from kickoff. Utah and Colorado with a really interesting Big 12 slate still ahead for both of these teams. The Big 12 season, I think the Big 12 title game, especially after Texas Tech falls to Arizona State, still a kind of a wide open track to play what looks like might be the BYU Cougars in the Big 12 championship game. We'll keep you guys updated on a matchup between 5-2 Iowa State, 7-0 BYU. That is going on here in the studio. I am Porter Larsen. Trevor Reilly sits across from me. James Peterson back behind the glass. Trevor, we are turning the page on the rivalry game after we talk a little bit of ball. Right? We're not going to talk emotions. We're not going to get into the tears of the triumph of the rivalry. But what BYU did to Utah specifically to win that football game, it's hard because I do think that there is a lot to this, to the point that it was a very evenly played game, and BYU just played cleaner, right? Yeah. That was a large part of it. Yeah. But how did you intake that football game in Provo? Were you down there?
I wasn't down there. I was watching intently in California. The issue I saw was a bunch of follies. One of those games, man, where everything seemed to go bad at some point. We fumbled, we threw a pick, we muffed a punt, which was the fumble, and we also had 4 turnovers on downs. And we would have missed that field goal if they didn't call timeout on one of them 4th downs. So it was just a bad operation in a lot of ways, man.
The practice kick, if you will, the one that he did get off,
shanked it.
It was wide, and so it's hard because for me, there's an analytics side of football, and I am a guy that is number one. If you're not a proponent of the analytics side of football, you're fighting math. Yeah. Which don't fight math. Number one, as someone who had to retake most of his math classes going through school, don't fight math. It's right. Math is right. However, there are certain parts of the analytical side of football that you cannot calculate, right? Yeah. And it felt like I was in that stadium. I was watching from a bird's eye view, and it just felt like points were at a premium that whole first half.
I agree with that.
And listen, when it's 4th and 1, and you feel like you're number one of the best teams in the country at converting, okay. But when it's 4th and 6, 4th and 7, even if your kicker just shanked it, that's his practice one. Let him go and step in, give him some confidence, let him step in and get the next one. That's how I felt last Saturday. I do feel like there was a team that is historically, and a coaching staff who's historically fairly conservative, a little over-aggressiveness there. Now, an interesting part, Trevor, Coach Whittingham mentioned this. Their analytics are all customized, right? So week to week, of course, as you'd expect, it's 2025. These are all changed and updated based on your opponent, based on your team, based on your offense. Something that I talked about with some of the staff, and that even with Kyle, is interesting, is that Utah's go, right, their go for on analytics might have been like a little oversaturated because of how good they've been this season. their math is saying, hey, you're 80, 90%. Just go. Just go. At a certain point, that computer doesn't know that BYU and Utah also have this rivalry that they feel in their bones and in their blood, and it goes down into the dirt, right? You can't compute that. And I felt like that was part of the story on Saturday.
I agree with a lot of that. I think that the game became out of hand at times, meaning 2 scores for me in the fourth quarter. That's out of hand. That's when you start getting choked out.
Even though, of course, because of this rivalry, we almost got a onside kick that almost made it a football game.
So we lose by 3, but really, when you go prevent or whatever it was, and you're just like, well, we'll let them run the clock out, and that's math.
Right.
And so the game became sloppy to me. And you start doubling down because you've made a mistake here. And then doubling down is not bad either. It's not always bad. I mean, the Lions have made a living off of it.
It became tense, too.
It did.
When it becomes tense, that also is when it kind of sometimes gets sloppy. And what I mean by that is it's 0-0 in the second quarter. You've now wasted 2 really good drives if you're Utah. 2 good drives that now BYU's been able to kind of counter defensively, right? They've been able to adjust. And it's still 0-0. There's been no give or take either way. And then, muff punt.
Oh my goodness.
And then it really gets tense, right?
That was the one, man.
And I do feel like the game changed in those few minutes where you leave points on the board, and then you kind of feel like you give something to BYU a few possessions in a row. That's an unfortunate place to be. And BYU, Utah, that's an unfortunate matchup to do that in. And you couldn't quite overcome it in the end, although, of course, as we mentioned, it became close. Trevor, if you're Utah, schematically, you look at that game, and BYU kind of did what Texas Tech did in a lot of ways, which is just challenge you where you know Utah's strong and make Utah beat you or make mistakes in the areas where they're not, right?
Just throwing the ball.
We didn't see anything down the field, again, for Utah's offense. We've talked a lot about Devin Dampier's availability, his health. I don't know how much that ankle is necessarily affecting maybe your plant leg, but he hasn't been able to get the ball downfield in a way that makes you confident in Utah getting the ball downfield consistently.
Shoot, or if he has, 18's dropped it.
That's the other thing. It's hard because I'll be honest. It'll take some time to unpack this. I have seen a lot of floating from Devin, right? Where if the play and the route tree is developing more than 20, 25, 30 yards downfield, he's kind of just putting it up there a lot of times. That being said, the times when it feels like he's put it on the money, outside of Ryan Davis, his receivers aren't helping him, at least the vertical guys.
No, his best receiver is playing safety.
And Tobias Merriweather, who is out this week, he's your physically your biggest threat down the field. He's dropped every really good ball that's come to him outside of the one he scored on. That is tough because as a quarterback, you're trying to get your confidence. You're trying to really step into those throws and feel confident about them and not leave them floating in the air. But you don't necessarily have the threats downfield to feel confident there. And I think it's clear on tape. You can see that there's no, at least when they're down the field, the intermediate stuff, the short route stuff, he feels confident. He is stepping into those. They're, easy 1-2 reads. But down the field, man, it just kind of feels almost like a punt every once in a while.
He's short. I've said this for a long time, and I've defended against these guys. Short quarterbacks, they don't see over the middle well. Tua just said, what did Tua say on Monday?
He, at a press conference, he said, I couldn't see him.
Our center's bigger than his.
If you watch the tape, Trevor,
our center's huge.
There's a good angle on most NFL games, but you can just watch the play developing in front of Tua. And, dude, everyone on the field can see it. If you're
He's in
watching
Redwoods,
that
dude. He's
camera,
in a forest.
Everyone can see it, and he couldn't. And when he was asked in his press conference, he just said, I couldn't see over the tackle. And listen, Devin Dampier is 5'10", 5'11". He's smaller than I am by a good margin. And he is behind what you have talked about is like one of the biggest offensive lines in football, not
I've
just
ever
college,
seen,
not just college football,
including
just in
the
football.
NFL. These guys are monsters, and the center is an ogre. Okay, he's a great guy. He's married. He's not a bad-looking guy, but he's a dang ogre. That's Shrek. All right, he'll rip you in half and eat you.
Jaron is an ogre, huh?
He is an ogre, dude. He's an old thrower with size 18 shoes. He'll
I want to see where he lives.
He's from Harriman, man.
He probably has like a nice apartment set up, living in the city now, but 15 years from now, he might have a swamp of his own.
Oh, dude, listen, Jim's been putting together a bunch of rednecks in this O-line, all right, between him and Garrett Bowles, okay? Lomu's got some sense. He's from down there in Arizona. He's a city boy. I call it Provo South.
What is that, Flagstaff?
He's in Gilbert. Okay, my brother coached him down there at Highland. I always mention that because I'm just so happy that he's here, and I hope he doesn't leave. I think he's gonna. I hope he comes back. I don't know if he will.
He's a really good football player.
He is, but he's expensive. Okay, here's the thing I say. When you have big guys who are expensive, okay, make sure you got fast guys who are expensive. Iowa goes through this. Other big schools like us go through this. We can talk about that ad nauseum because that goes into what you were talking about. We have an issue going down the field sometimes. That's why I'm excited to see a Ficklin place because I like to see healthy guys. If you're short, you got to have everything going for you.
Right. You
got to be fast. You got to be mobile. You got to have great touch, which he does, by the way. Dampier has all of these things. But right now, he's got, a wounded wing or whatever. He needs to heal up a little bit. I like to see this kid move around and see what he can do. And he's exciting to me because when he throws that ball, he rips that C, dude. That ball comes out nice. It looks nice.
Last week, when it became apparent that Devin was ailing with something, Bird was brought in. And it was like an obvious, he's running it, Devin's passing it. He's running it, Devin's passing it. That was like kind of obvious for a few drives. I think Utah might be working with something like that this week. It does sound like Devin Dampier is going to try to play. He is probable, questionable. With the Utes injury report, I would take it all with a little bit of a grain of salt.
I wouldn't even look at it. They put 3 guys on there. I think Colorado put 15, dude.
And hey, listen, there's a little bit of a middle finger to Vegas with the injury report stuff, and I know it frustrates fans. I know it's Utah fans specifically with the Cam Rising stuff. We can go back to like every quarterback Utah's ever had because they take a beating. Jordan Wynn, Travis Wilson, Cam Rising, even Tyler Huntley. That's part of the story, it seems, with Utah quarterbacks because they're asked to run. They're asked to be an extra hat sometimes. That's just part of the game. But if there's someone putting a middle finger to Vegas in 2025, I'm kind of liking it, to be completely honest with you, Trevor.
Well, especially after this horror show with the NBA where they got the freaking Cosa Nostra.
That's kind of what I'm
4
alluding to.
families with Hall of Famers.
And
ripping off whales all over the country. And we have kids that are getting caught betting. We got coaches who are laying line. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, it is a little bit like that, dude.
You want to. I'll just say this: those guys are in Las Vegas. There are Division I football programs all over the place. You don't think those fellas have connections in Provo, in Salt Lake, in the West? Like the gambling thing is a very slippery slope that when you allow it to like really get going. And right now, gambling's not even illegal in Utah. It's not legal in Utah. It's against the Constitution. However, you can, because money plows through everything, including laws, you can log on to Robinhood or Underdog or shout out Prize Picks, promo code ESPN 700. You can log on to any of those bets or any of those apps, and because you're not betting on games, you're betting on outcomes or market outcomes.
It's all sophistry, dude.
It's a loophole.
It's sophistry. It's garbage.
And listen, there's a seedy part of the game that you allow to kind of take hold. And I've seen more of it the last couple of years, and I've seen more things on the field and in the replay booth that made me go, than I've seen in decades prior. It's been interesting. So I just want to put that out there. Anyone kind of putting a middle finger and just saying, hey, who we got is who we got. You'll see when we kick off. I I kind of like it, even though it is frustrating for Vegas and for fans and for people who want to know who's playing.
The whole issue around gambling has been the fight between Vegas giving up power or not. And looking back, I'm not so sure. When I was in Sweden, everyone was gambling, and in England they had a real issue. They got 16-year-olds betting on games over there,
right?
Like it's nothing. And and so that's because gambling is. You can go down to the local liquor store and place a bet. We're not there yet, but we're headed there. We're headed to where you can go down to the local where the lottery's played, and you can place a sports bet.
Well, also, so I
That's
saw
a little bit crazy.
I saw an article that said 60 to 70% of college-age males bet on sports through some sort of intermediary. 60 to 70% of college-age males right now in America. So we're already,
how many of our players are betting on them?
We're already in a landscape
let's do
where
this. Before we leave, I'm going to ask you a serious question.
We are going to break here shortly. Yeah.
How many guys on this team of 100 are betting on this game? Over. Let's just play a game here. James, over under 3. How many guys got some action on this, dude?
No comment. That's NCAA violation.
Okay, well. Yeah. That's my point. Is we're having that talk, right? When I was in college, there may have been one guy every couple years.
Although they can bet on pro sports now.
Yeah, I heard that. But I'm talking about guys actually betting on their own games.
They can have accounts and bet. So now it's just a slippery slope. And then you get into the point where Jonte Porter, the guy who's now banned from the NBA,
yes, he is for life.
He now comes to find out the mafia guys that got arrested last week, they were threatening him for his life to go out and do that and go and play on the court.
Wow.
So, I don't know, maybe have some conversations about it. Speaking of that, Adam Silver has a congressional subpoena, apparently, as of a few hours ago. So we're going to hear a lot about this in the coming weeks. On the other side, how about Kyle Whittingham's thoughts on the rivalry loss and the matchup with Colorado? We'll hear all of that. His weekly press conference comes your way on the other side. Our rivalry reaction and a little discussion on the current events in the sports world, which are just wild, brought to you by our friends at Red Bull. Red Bull gives you wings. Our friends at Red Bull up at the tailgate, joining our friends at Outlaw Distillery up there as well, ahead of Colorado and Utah. Trevor Reilly, Porter Larson in studio, James Peterson behind the glass, and this is Utes Game Day on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah quarterback Devin Dampier, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
Devin Dampier, QB1, bringing us back in. Tune into Edition with Devin each and every week on the Sean O'Connell Show, and then, of course, on YouTube. Got a few hours before kickoff, of course, after Utes Game Day. Maybe check in on Edition with Devin. QB1, will he play or will he not? Well, he won't answer on ESPN 700. I'll guarantee you that. But You can hear his thoughts on the rivalry game and the matchup ahead. How about Kyle Whittingham's thoughts on the rivalry game and the matchup ahead? Brought to you by our friends at Sound Warehouse. The Super Fall Sale. Don't miss the best deals of the year at Sound Warehouse. Rocking your ride for 47 years. 3 convenient locations in Salt Lake, Orem, and Ogden. Visit Sound Warehouse or soundwarehouse.com today. And if you visit their Salt Lake location during the week, get passes to our VIP ESPN 700 tailgate as well. It's Sound Warehouse, and they bring you the Kyle Whittingham press conference.
Obviously a tough loss in the rivalry game this past weekend. I thought our guys fought hard, extremely hard, and proud of the way they hung in there to the bitter end. Did some really good things in the game. I mean, we outrushed them, outthrew them, got more first downs than them. Just a lot of positives, but lost some key battles. Turnover margin, first and foremost. Red zone production. In fact, those are the 2 biggest keys to the game. So that's was the difference in the game. Was the 2-0 loss in the turnover margin and the red zone touchdown percentage. And so disappointing, like I said. But I got a lot of season left, and that's one. I don't want to say disadvantage, or one facet of the rivalry game in the middle of the season is you got to put it behind you right away and regroup, because there's more football to be played. And so very confident that our guys will handle that the right way and get ready for a very good Colorado team. I mean, I know they're 3-4, but the combined record of those 4 losses of the teams they played is 25-3. I mean, they've played some really good teams. And so they are much better football team than their record indicates. I can tell you that for certain. And so we got to be at our best and be ready. And got to have a great week of preparation, like always, and just continue our process. I mean, like I said, we're just over the halfway point, so a lot of football to be played this season. So questions? Yes, Justin. On behalf of
In the
Justin.
first quarter of the BYU game, you chose to go for it on 4th down instead of going for the 3 points. You said your decision was based on analytics. How much weight did you give to establishing momentum and positive psychology by kicking the field goal and taking the
Well, analytics takes all that into consideration as well. I mean, they're first of all, if you think you're smarter than analytics, you're not. Anybody out there? If you think you got better grasp of the game and strategy than the analytics do, you don't. Now, there's an asterisk to that. Unforeseen circumstances in a game that, guys, say you get a couple offensive linemen injured, or you're trying to kick a 50-yard field goal into a 50-mile-an-hour wind. I mean, there's things that do arise. And so we pay close attention to analytics, but not exclusive attention. The analytics in that particular situation you were talking about, it was a full-on go all the way up to 4th and 5 or less. And so at 4th and 1 is a no-brainer. I mean, I don't know anyone in the country that subscribes to analytics, and I would say 90% at least of Power 4 teams do, maybe 100%, would not have gone for it in that situation. And so that was an easy call, one of the easiest calls of the game, 4th down wise. And you say, well, why didn't you kick it? Well, yeah, we could have kicked it. Are we going to make it for certain? I mean, that's not a guarantee. And touchdowns are so much more valuable than field goals. Then it's just, that's why analytics is so heavily in favor of 4th down conversions in the red zone because of that. A field goal is actually a loss in the red zone. I mean, that means you've moved the ball and you've got within striking distance, but you bogged down. And so we try to do everything we can to score touchdowns, as does everyone in the country. And that was the reason for that, is the analytics and my own personal opinion were aligned. And again, had it been 4th and 5, it's still a go, and it was 4th and 1. We were coming off a very good game on 4th down against Arizona State. We put the ball in our best player's hands, Devin Dampier, and just didn't work out at that particular time. But like I said after the game, bad result doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad decision going into it. So, good question, though.
Well, sticking on that just a tiny bit, when you look at that on the tape, was there any telltale on why you weren't able to get these?
Yeah, we didn't block it exactly, that particular play exactly correct. And, I don't want to get into who was incorrect or what, any of the specifics, but we didn't execute it very well. That was the bottom line. And the same thing on the 4th and 3 from the 12-yard line. And again, that was a go all the way to 5. Same thing. It was 4th and 5 or less. You go in that situation, and same thing there. Put the ball in our best players' hands. Well, the one was a toss. I'm sorry, the toss to Daniel Bray. The other one I'm talking about was Devon's, and so, yeah, I got those backwards. But
staying on those lines as well, with the 4th and 7, you had Dylan Curtis out there, and then he attempted the kick, but it didn't count. It was missed. Do you have faith in him to make those kicks, or was it just, again, you saw what BYU was, they called the timeout and it caused a change of heart?
Well, it caused a change of heart. We were going to kick it, obviously, but we have struggled at that exact distance this year, the 45, 46-yard range. We're 1 for 4 from that range, actually 1 for 5 because we missed one a couple games back that was there was a penalty, so it didn't count, and then he missed the one right before they called timeout. So we're actually 1 for 6 from that range. That was right on the cusp of the analytics. Go either way, you can kick field goal or go for it. It was like 45% kick field goal, 43% if you go. And so when we saw the kick go fairly significantly wide right, we said, you know what, let's just go for it. And so that was the one that was could have gone either way. But again, you can't. People that say, well, if you'd have kicked a field goal, add 3 points to the score, this is what it would have been. No, that's entirely false. When as the score changes, people's tactics change and the play calling changes based on the situation. So you can't just say at the end of the game, well, if you'd have done this and this would have been the score, because that's ludicrous to think that way.
Kyle, Devin, I think, had his lowest completion percentage of the season, if I'm not mistaken. Just looking at the tape, I guess what led to that the completion percentage being so low compared to previous games, and are you confident in the past game, given just there were a few mistakes there, a few missed reads and so forth?
Yeah, he actually didn't have a bad game though overall. I mean, he rushed the ball effectively. They did a good job in coverage. Give them credit for that. That which led to some of the lack of completion percentage points. But right now we're our forte right now is running the football. We're in the top 5 in the nation, 5 or 6 in the nation running the football. Devin's been a great quarterback for us. I think he's number 10 in the country in QBR, which is the best measure of how your quarterback's playing. And so that's our bread and butter is running the ball, but you still got to be able to throw. And we did. We threw it for over 200, what was it, 220, 230, 240, somewhere in that range. And so we did get some production throwing the ball. We obviously would have liked to have more, but just weren't quite as sharp in the throw game as we have been in certain other games.
To follow up on that, Dampier was clearly hobbled, limited late in that game. Do you consider going to Bert Ficklen at all this week?
You know what? We'll just check the availability report comes out Wednesday, and we have to wait a few days to see how these guys are healing up from the game, and so that's a distinct possibility, I can tell you that. But on Wednesday, you'll start getting the availability report and the likelihood of who's playing, who's not.
So Colorado, is better than what their record has shown?
Absolutely.
Stands out about them?
Well, they're well coached. I think Coach Sanders has done a great job there. He's obviously charismatic and a highly energetic guy that's got just a ton of juice. They're like a lot of the teams we've played this year. They got a quarterback who's really a good runner, and I think that's one of the reasons. Not to get off the subject, but our run defense this year is not as good as it typically is, and I think a big reason for that is we've seen so much key run game in the first 7 games of the year, and this is another guy that runs the ball exceptionally well, and that's their one of their best attributes. They've also got a really good red zone. They're 72% red zone touchdown percentage, which is outstanding. And so they're doing a lot of good things. But the quarterback run game is probably right towards the top of the list of things we need to be concerned with this week.
Don Saunders saw some increased time on Saturday. Was it just due to what BYU was showing personnel-wise, or was there somebody in the defensive backs that was unable to go?
Scooby Davis got banged up and was unable to go for a stretch of time there, and that's when you saw Donovan come in, and he actually held the fort down pretty good.
Daniel Bray obviously goes pretty well in that game, but you didn't really have much for Wayshawn or DeCarry. Was there a difference in kind of the production and the shift in that, or what kind of happened there?
Well, they did a good job. They played odd front the majority of the time, and when you play an odd front, that typically will lend itself to a stingier inside run game defense, and maybe not quite as strong on the edges. And so it was more of a product of what we were seeing. And going in, we knew that. They had been a lot of odd front all season long. And so that was a concerted effort on our part, was to try to get to the edges with Daniel in particular. And I think that really paid off for us. We had some really good runs, although the fourth down was obviously a disappointment. But other than that, it was very productive for us.
This is a two-part question.
Two parts. Okay, if I can't remember the first part, remind me.
If Devin is hobbled and the quarterback run game is affected, I guess when he's out there, I guess how does that change the approach offensively? And if you do have to go to Bird this week, how confident are you just in his ability to get you guys a win and run the offense consistently?
Okay, when Devin's hobbled, that obviously causes you to rethink some of the QB run game. You don't completely go away from it, but you might, when it's could go either way situation, you might opt to not do it because of his his mobility. He got beat up in this game pretty good. Second part of your question, Bert Ficklin, we got a ton of confidence in every time he's entered a game so far this year. He's done positive things, and if we have to go that route, then I shouldn't say if we have to go. If we end up going that route based on health, then we got the confidence in him that he can get it done.
What's allowed Bird to kind of move into this backup role as a freshman?
Performance in practice, performance in games. It started back in spring. He was, just fresh out of high school and really had the poise and the demeanor of a, second, third, fourth year player in your program. I mean, he just did not operate like a true freshman, and he's got a lot of self-confidence. He's got a lot of ability, just physical ability. He's an excellent athlete, a really good runner, throws a really good ball. In fact, he's 9 for 9, I think, on his 9 throws this year so far. And so he's a guy that has showed nothing but a lot of promise ever since he set foot on campus. I'll stay after for an analytics conversation. I can get you the whole thing. I mean, it's pretty interesting.
Where do you get the analytics information from? Is there a company?
Our analytics company? Yep, absolutely. We subscribe to it, as does, I guess maybe there's some Power 4 schools that get it on campus in the math department or whatever, but there are several companies out there that's what they do. They're in analytics, and they subscribe and pay a yearly fee, and then they feed you the information every week, and they're customized. It's not just like, hey, in any game in the country, 4th and 1 from the +8, you go for it. It's customized as per the opponent and what they've done, so far this year, what we've done so far this year, our field goal kicking percentage. I mean, there's every week it's customized. It's not just an arbitrary, here's your plan for the year. And so that's why it makes so much sense. Unless, like I said, there's things that come up in game, weather-wise, personnel-wise, that change it dramatically.
You have the lead in the fourth quarter.
For about 3 minutes. Yeah.
Granted, it was a low-scoring game.
Yep.
But last year you had fourth quarter leads. Also in low-scoring games where a lot was being asked in the defense, the teams were able to go down the field in clutch situations last year. And obviously, in this recent game, they scored twice. Is there something talking to the defense about, the biggest moments and that kind of stuff? Every possession isn't created equal, and momentum swings. And
sure.
How much emphasis do you put on that? How you do it?
Well, a lot of it, and Coach Scally does as good a job as anybody in the country with tactics and educating the defense, the game within the game. It's not just, there's so many intricacies and so much detail, and he does a phenomenal job of doing that. In fact, I've never been around anybody that's better than him at doing that. So that is a big part of educating your guys and making sure they understand that every down is not created equal, as you said. In fact, that's the exact term we use.
Trevor Reilly was previously an assistant staffer for Colorado. Now he's back in Utah, being a GM for the Utah Islanders. I'm just curious, what is your perspective and thoughts on his journey? I know he, with the Islanders, kind of wants to, what he says, create a minor league team for the Utes and BYU. Just kind of walk me through your thoughts of his past 2 years with Colorado and now coming back to Salt Lake City.
Well, I'll begin it with saying Trevor Reilly is one of my favorite people on earth. I love the guy, and he's one of the most unique, interesting, intelligent guys you're ever going to meet. He's got a great creative capacity in his mind and thinks outside the box constantly, not once in a while, always. His life is outside the box. And so he's got a vision on what he wants to do, and we'll see. A lot of it will be dictated by the structure of NC2A football and where it goes from here and what the rules are and how they morph, or whatever term you want to use. But the concept is really good, and he's an idea guy. Did you see Night Shift? Michael Keaton, idea guy. Feed the fish mayonnaise. Yeah, feed the tuna. So anyway, way off the subject, but it fits for Trevor Reilly. And so when Trevor has an idea, you listen, because a lot of the time, most of the time, there's validity to it and substance to it. And like I said, he's a guy that really can come up with things that no one else has thought of.
That's the Kyle Whittingham Weekly Press Conference, brought to you by our friends at Sound Warehouse. Sound Warehouse Super Fall Sale. Don't miss the deals of the year on your ride. They're rocking your ride for 47 years now with 3 locations in Orem, Ogden, and Salt Lake. And stop by for those tailgate passes. Kyle Whittingham finishing his press conference talking about, just that guy, my co-host Trevor Reilly, the idea man, if you will. We're going to get to more conversation with Trevor. Our guy D-Mac is in the house. We'll chat with him, give you a college football scoreboard update, including a Big 12 game of note that just went final. That comes your way on the other side. It's Utes Game Day on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Hey y'all, this is O-Block member Spencer Fano, and you're listening to Utah Football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
The captain, Spencer Fano, bringing us back in on a Utes Game Day. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. I am Porter Larsen. That is Trevor Reilly, the former Ute, former NFL linebacker, defensive end, idea guy. That's his official position. That's what we have Trevor Reilly here for. College football scoreboard update, Big 12 update, brought to you this segment by our friends at Mo Bettas. Born of native Hawaiian roots on the island of Oahu, Mo Bettas is rooted in family tradition. A big thanks to our friends at Mo Bettas. That's Kimo Kalani Mac, a Hawaiian staple right here in Utah. Locations, menu, catering, and more at mobettas.com. How about a important Big 12 update for you. The BYU Cougars are 8-0. 5-0 in conference play. They just beat Iowa State 41-27 in Ames. They're good, Trevor Reilly.
Yeah, man.
That's a good football team who now at 8-0 has not only an inside track to the Big 12 title game, but a potential spot in college football's playoff.
I was sitting with Darrell, and he said, they have our whole coaching staff from 2008, and they just copy and paste it. It looks like they're just rolling along.
Sione Puaha is over there. Aaron Roderick's over there. Kalani Sataki is over there.
Jay Hill, Gary Anderson.
Jay Hill, of course, Gary Anderson.
Randy Coy.
I'm going to give a shout-out to
Ayu.
This guy is actually not a Ute, but he's a Jay Hill fella from Weber State who's now BYU's strength and conditioning leader, Skylar Main, who is keeping that team really healthy. He is a sensei, a wizard. I've worked a lot with Skylar and speak really highly of him. So they're doing some things right over there, and it is showing. They're 8-0 and atop the Big 12 by themselves, 5-0 in conference play. Cincinnati is 4-0 in conference play, so they'll have something to say as we go down the stretch. But the teams with one loss as of right now, Houston, Texas Tech, and Arizona State alongside BYU. Of course, Kansas State, TCU, Utah, and Baylor all with 2 losses and what you would say are still in the conversation when it comes to the Big 12 title race. Trevor, clearly a get-right game for Utah. I don't think this is a get-right opponent, though, if that makes sense, right? You speak of that as a term where, all right, we had a tough game against BYU, our rival. We're physically beat up. This is a get-right game, right? Usually that's against an opponent who allows you to do that. I think it's apparent and clear that Utah needs to get right against Colorado. But this is an opponent who, mainly at the skill positions, they have some legitimate threats there that aren't going to necessarily allow you to do that easily.
And they got better they played 2 weeks ago. So they got a bye they're coming off.
Exactly.
And they're smooth and they're clean at times. And when they're really fast. And you just mentioned that. Really fast team. They got a quarterback who can sling it when you're around the pocket, out of the pocket a little bit. He doesn't have great mechanics. He's not real disciplined at times, but he's getting better. Okay, he's getting coached by NFL guys. He's getting better. But Colorado, to me, is a rivalry game, Porter.
Yep.
Okay, you remember 2011? We know they had 2 wins, and they came in here and beat us, and we didn't get into the Pac-12 championship game. And these guys, we've been mostly kicking their rear end. So this is a standard. It's one of the rivalries where there's always we know who the daddy is. Okay, and that would be the Utes.
I think if you ask me,
we slay buffaloes, literally. Dude.
Utah's rivals are BYU, of course, first and foremost. I think USC, although that's going to fade probably just because of the reality of college football today. And then it's Colorado, it's Utah State historically, not really anymore. They don't play anymore. But that is where you go. So, hey, that's our Big 12 wrap-up for you with some of the teams that are still there. How about a college football scoreboard update? Alabama, they just scored over South Carolina. It looks like they're going to escape the number 4 team in college football, 29-22. That one in the waning moments. Texas Tech, they're up 42-0 over Oklahoma State. Once a Big 12 power. Right now, the doormat there, the Cowboys are. Texas Tech is going to be 7-1. They're going to be 4-1 in Big 12 play. Cincinnati, who I mentioned earlier, looks like they're going to remain unbeaten in Big 12 play as well. The 21st ranked Bearcats 41-20 over Baylor. Texas, they are down 17 in the fourth quarter. Mississippi State. Mississippi State is up 38-21 over the Longhorns.
How's Arch playing?
10 minutes
How's Arch playing, dude? That's going to be the storyline tomorrow. And
that's what you're going to talk about. Hey, he's not playing poorly. He's 23 of 34, 2 scores, 260 yards, but just not enough. Their defense is allowing Mississippi State to score just about every possession. 38-21 there. We'll update you on college football scores as we go along. As I mentioned, brought to you by our friends at Mo Bettas. On the other side, Coordinator's Corner with Sean O'Connell, Jason Beck, the offensive coordinator, his thoughts on the game against BYU, and then, of course, the matchup ahead against Colorado. And then we're back for the final Sprint on the Utes Game Day pregame show. We'll give you our predictions and more keys to the game. We'll chat with our guy Darrell Mack here in studio, chat with James behind the glass, and then we'll hand it over to Scott, Bill, and Sly at Rice-Eccles Stadium for the call of the game. It's Utah and Colorado. I am Porter Larson, and this is Utes Game Day on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah linebacker Lander Barton, and you're listening to Utah Football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Lander Barton bringing us back in. Well, you're not going to see him for the first few minutes, first few quarters today. He'll be out after the targeting penalty in the second half against BYU, but he will be back for the second half. Colorado will have to prepare for him in just the second half here against Utah. The Utes Game Day show continues on, this time with Coordinator's Corner, our guy Sean O'Connell with the Utes OC, Jason Beck.
Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by America First Credit Union. And this week we welcome in the offensive coordinator, Jason Beck from the University of Utah. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great, Sean. Good to be on with you.
Always great to be able to catch up with you. Obviously, coming off an important one this season, BYU, Utah, and unfortunately, you come out on the wrong end of the rivalry game. Tell me just kind of an overall assessment of how you thought your offense performed in that game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, not the result we wanted and a difficult one. We did a lot of good things. Just didn't do enough, to end up winning it. Especially, when it comes down to it, those couple fourth downs in the red zone, if we could have converted those, it could have been a different story.
So, indulge me here, Coach, if we could talk about the decision-making process and then the play calls with each of those scenarios. 4th and 1, early in the game, and you guys are driving. Things are going really, really well. And it's a little sweep outside with Daniel Bray. Walk me through the play call and the decision to have that be the conversion on 4th and 1.
Yeah, we couple of times on the drive, so 3 times before we kind of had that dummy motion, and we'd had some QB type runs that were really good for us. And so it was just a wrinkle off of that. And sure enough, everybody was squeezed in the box. We gave that thing, and we were kind of one-on-one with the man-to-man guy, and we just weren't able to convert. So in hindsight, man, I wish I called something else.
Well.
But at the moment, that's why I went to that call. Think it would be around that edge and beat the man-to-man guy and convert.
Did you expect the man-to-man guy? It was Maury Bamba, I guess. Did you expect that he would follow the motion, that he would kind of put him right there And is that how it was practiced? Is that how it looked on film?
Yeah, and typically both tight red zone and 3rd/4th and short, you are man-to-man. And those guys are running, and they got to come all the way across the formation, through the backers, through the blockers, and Bray's a fast kid. And so between all those variables, as you saw in other plays, we have great runs going. Just didn't work on that one.
Yeah, that's always tough. The inside receiver there, I think, was Simmons. What is his? Is he just first blue jersey he's supposed to block? Does he have a particular number, or the guy over him that he's trying to man up on and body up on? How does that work from the blocking scheme perspective?
Yeah, first and foremost, you got to protect any pressure coming off that edge, because there's a lot more threats that are more dangerous than that man-to-man guy.
Sure.
And so you got to protect those kind of triggers, backer scrapes, safety triggers that hit you more that way, that you got to be careful with.
So 4th and 1, 4th and 3, I mean, I think we got a lot of mixed reaction about whether you go for that or you take the points or whatever. You guys are the coaches. We have to kind of just watch and scream into the void. The decision to go from kicking the field goal on the 4th and 7 to then, no, let's send the offense back out there. I imagine the available play calls, the script is somewhat different on 4th and 7 than on 4th and 1 or 4th and 3. So walk me through that if you don't mind.
Yeah, there's always those different scenarios, situations you plan on and you're ready for. And so we went to one of our really, call we work on all the time, critical situations. And we just, based off the coverage and the look, it took us to that back shoulder throw, and we just weren't able to throw and connect on it.
Is the throw where it was supposed to be, and did the route look how it was supposed to look? Because, I mean, again, we're just nitpicking here, but I look at that, I'm like, that's a convertible play right there. That it looked like it was a catchable ball, and that the receiver's body was in the right position potentially to catch it. And obviously, you're beyond the sticks, if I'm not mistaken. So, did it play out aside from the catch, kind of the way it's scripted?
Yeah, we are. It's a predetermined back shoulder throw. So the quarterback, the receiver, you work that chemistry all the time where that thing's coming, getting roped back shoulder, run off, turn your eyes, catch the ball. It's something we've converted on a couple times this year in critical situations, and just didn't work in that one.
How do you coach up a guy like Tobias Merriweather? I know was an important piece to add to this offense in the offseason. He's had some struggles with drops later in the game. It ended up being a penalty on BYU, but a ball goes through his hands. It hits him in the face mask. And I know that, this is something you guys are practicing all week, every week, I imagine. How do you, in game, how do you handle it with a guy when he's having a little bit of, of a yip situation in some of those scenarios?
Yeah, you got to make those decisions of who you trust the most in these different spots based off, previous history. And you want to find the hot hand and go to those guys. And obviously coverage and different defensive looks dictate where that ball goes on your reads. And it's a little disappointing for Tobias not to have kind of the performance he would want, and that will help our offense. But, that's part of the deal. We just got to keep working, keep getting better, and come through when your number is called.
In a game like this one against BYU, I mean, Bray, we talked about him a lot coming into this game as kind of an X factor, and he really had, if there was a need for a breakout game, I mean, this is a breakout game for a freshman, I think by anyone's definition. You have two really good running backs. You have a running quarterback. You actually have two quarterbacks who are proficient at running the football. So when you're going through and you're trying to figure out, okay, like, who am I going to give the touches and in which scenarios, how difficult is that now that you have kind of an embarrassment of riches, at least in the running attack?
Yeah, really nice to have Bray performing and playing so well. And, a lot of those, there's kind of reads going on. Do we give it to him? QB pull, keep it. Of course, play action nakeds off of it, that kind of stuff. But it's anytime you have a person that steps up and performs at a high level, it just really helps your offense in its production to move the ball, to score points, and to be harder to defend.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in this game you were faced with a couple of decisions, and you probably something that might continue through the year as Devin tries to get 100% healthy, where the QB run game is an important part of your offense, but if Dev is not quite himself, in the BYU game, and we've seen it, I think, in the past, where you can bring in Bird Ficklin, and Bird Ficklin can obviously handle those duties, but that also allows for a defense to potentially key on, okay, this kid's in, and he doesn't throw that much. He is proficient as a thrower if his completion percentage is any indication, but how do you manage that, Coach? Because you don't want to sacrifice the QB run game if Dev's not healthy, but you don't want to be overly predictable by bringing in Bird Ficklin and having everyone be like, okay, this is going to be either an option play or just a designed QB run.
Yeah, exactly. You got to manage that thing at a high level, and so we were working on keeping Devin on the field as well. So that way, if Bird's in there, Devin's also in there. You don't quite know who's lining up at quarterback. So at least you can't make a call based off that. Where if you're totally bringing Devin out of the game, all right, that's the first opportunity for the defense to make a call. So we were kind of doing that. We would keep Devin out there, line him up somewhere else to let Bird do some of that QB run stuff to allow our offense to be difficult to defend and keep doing those things. And then at the same time, we can line Bird up in different spots. So when he's out there, he's not always lined up at quarterback, So you're kind of doing a little of that. Then you obviously have to have complementary things that you're doing with Bird where he is allowed to throw it. He is allowed to make decisions. And he's put enough stuff on tape that a team can't just treat him like a running back. He's put enough throws and plays on tape that they can't bring everybody in the box and just dare you to throw it because he's shown that he can.
Coordinator's Corner here on the Sean O'Connell Show with Jason Beck, brought to you by America First Credit Union. Utah's offensive play caller, of course, Jason Beck. So how is the offensive line graded out after a game like BYU? You end up with 6+ yards a carry, I think. The pocket was pretty clean in a lot of cases. There was some pressure. And, this is as big of a game as you're going to play in a football regular season. How did your offensive line come out when you evaluated the film?
Yeah, they obviously have been a strength of our offense all season and have done a lot of great stuff for us to help us move the ball. And, they played well. BYU, they have a great defensive scheme and give you challenges, and our guys, man, I thought they were well prepared and handled that. Anytime you don't get the results you want, then obviously it's not, quite good enough. And so you are hard, you are critical, and you're just finding everything you've got to improve and get better at. So we can be just a little better on those critical plays, a little better on those tailback handoff runs between the tackles, which was probably at the end of the game, we came up short there in just the efficiency of the tailback runs between the tackles. So there's always things to work on, things to improve, to get better, to play the best football we can.
This is an odd question to have to ask because when a linebacker gets ejected for targeting, it usually doesn't affect the offensive coordinator that much. But Lander Barton is a unique animal, and obviously you guys have used him on both sides of the ball. You're without him in the first half for the University of Colorado game. So Do you make significant adjustments, or is it just Dallin Bentley carry that load that Lander might have carried some of during the first half?
Yeah, for the most part, we're playing Dallin all the time. It's just a matter of who else is out there, and on some of the stuff, Barton's out there with them.
Yeah.
And so we'll still use Barton, and we'll just wait till the second half to use him. So all that kind of stuff we can put on the back burner and just save it for the second half. We've usually been targeting about 20 plays a game. So whether we get all 20 of those in the second half or whether we, trim it down a little bit, we'll just save it for the second half and go from there. However, we do, you always got to have a backup plan prepared. And so when he got ejected, unfortunately, we can still do everything he was prepared to do and just do it with the next man up, the next guy ready to go.
I know they reviewed it, and I know by the letter of the law, when the contact is helmet to any part of the helmet, that you can uphold a situation like that. I thought Lander did what he could to get his helmet and the crown of his helmet out of the contact on that play. And I'm not asking you to sit here and pick apart officiating decisions, I guess, but isn't that kind of how you coach it up? Like when you're coming in hot, just don't lead with the crown of your helmet and hope for the best?
I mean, when I saw the replay, I thought for sure it was going to be overturned. So I thought it was unfortunate they called roughing with targeting, because I thought for sure they'd overturn the targeting. And but then you're still stuck with that roughing penalty.
For sure. Yeah.
Where if it was just targeting, you no longer even have the penalty. So I was surprised. I was surprised when they came back and confirmed it.
Yeah, that makes two of us and probably thousands of us that were watching that game through a red lens. I can't believe we made it to this point in the discussion without me asking a question that probably should have been the first one. How is the rivalry different from the red side? You've obviously experienced it on the other side, like many of the coaches on your staff have, and many of the coaches on BYU staff have experienced it from the red side. Is there any marked difference when you're wearing a different color?
No, there was no. I had been back when I was at Virginia. We went back and played at BYU for a non-conference game. So when that happened, there was kind of that, interesting being in the other locker room and the other sideline perspective. But, I'd kind of already been through that hoop. And so you just treat it like any other game in terms of big game, important game, great opponent, all those things, top 25 matchup. Just disappointing. We weren't able to play better to win it.
So now you move forward with a Colorado team that, Coach Witt made it a point in his Monday press conference to say, hey, look, this team is better than their record says they are. Are you seeing that on film?
Yeah, definitely. And, the challenge after you play your rival is, man, you got to turn around and have a great week of preparation. And that can be really hard when you work so hard and invest so much and things don't go your way. And so that's a huge challenge to turn around and do that and be prepared to play your best football, which you're looking to do every week, play your best football of the season. So I thought we had a good Tuesday practice. I like the way the kids showed up on practice day yesterday, and we need to do the same, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and get ready to play our best game of the year this weekend.
Obviously, with the way it's working out in the Big 12, none of us should be surprised by this, but, there's 11 teams with 2 conference losses or fewer, which means 11 teams that are still within mathematical and somewhat feasible striking distance of a conference championship game appearance. Obviously, you being in that mix means there's no longer any margin for error. You don't go into games early in the season or at any point saying, hey, you know what, if we don't get this one, we'll be fine. I know that. But now it's definitive that if you want to win a conference championship, you can't make mistakes. Players can't make boneheaded mistakes. Your play calls have to be the best they could possibly be. The same is true on the opposite side for Morgan Scalley, et cetera. But, you can't practice differently, I would imagine, knowing these things. So how is that handled in the coaches' meetings, in conversations with the players, where kind of like when you're playing a big game, you impress upon everyone the magnitude of the situation, but you don't let it become a monster that affects performance?
Exactly. Just like you said, that's what we're looking to do. And you're looking to show up, every day, that mindset, that work ethic, that approach, because it all comes down to being as prepared to play as possible. And on game day, the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion at the highest level possible. And we've been able to do that several weeks, and it's that same challenge to get that done, this week. Every day you're working as hard as you can to prepare and be ready, and on game day you're showing up with as much passion, energy, and enthusiasm as you can to play your best football of the season.
With some of the freshmen now, Bird has looked really good. Daniel Bray, who we've talked about already, we really like what J.J. Buchanan's been able to do. He had a beautiful catch in this BYU game. When you're trying to, kind of balance out reps and balance out touches, I imagine there's a temptation to say, hey, give it to the guy who's a little more experienced and we know doesn't have whatever fumbling problems. I don't know. But also you still do need to cultivate these freshmen. Is that part of the calculus at all when you're making play calls?
Oh, absolutely. Both in your game plan, in your week-to-week approach. That's something we've been doing this whole season, to bring guys along, keep moving them forward. As guys keep playing well, give them more and more opportunities that way. Another guy to kind of add to that, Semi, he came over like week 2 from the defense. And, he doesn't quite get the ball, although he did have some catches and did some nice stuff. But he's doing some really good blocking stuff that's really helping us in the run game. And so every time they do that, you just want to kind of keep taking the next steps. And, okay, keep doing what you're doing, and let's add a little more to it. Versus if they're not doing great, then you kind of pull back a little bit on it. And so every time guys are playing well, you just want to keep pushing that envelope more and more to see what else they can do to help us move the ball and win games.
Coach, before I let you go, if you're a football coach, you're probably a football fan first. You and I are about the same age, and this Colorado staff has a bunch of guys on it that, I grew up watching play football in the NFL, and I imagine the same is true for you. Warren Sapp and Marshall Falk and Coach Prime himself. Is there ever like a what the heck kind of moment when you're coaching against guys like that?
No, I hadn't really thought of it till you said that. I mean, I absolutely get what you're saying. I did grow up, you're watching them play. So yeah, that is pretty cool, but I hadn't really thought anything of it, because you're not, you're spending all your time watching the tape and the players and the scheme and all that, and not really thinking about those things.
Well, go out there on Saturday night and show them you know more about football than those Hall of Famers do, all right?
All right, I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, Coach. As always, appreciate you.
All right, good to be on with you, Sean.
That's Jason Beck for Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by America First Credit Union, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
This is head coach Kyle Whittingham, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Head coach Kyle Whittingham bringing us back in on the Utes Game Day pregame show. Tune in each and every Tuesday for the Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show. That comes your way at 6 p.m. right after Spence and I hang up here on your home of the Utes since, before World War II. Yeah, 70-plus years, ESPN 700 been broadcasting games at the University of Utah. And we do so today from the studios here downtown. I'll head over to Rice Eccles Stadium here momentarily. Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, Stevenson Sylvester, they take over about 6:15 right here on the airwaves. Trevor Reilly in studio with me, of course, on a Colorado-Utah game day. No one more appropriate to talk some ball with. Darrell Mack in studio with us, talking some football as well. Of course, the former Utes giving their insight on the rivalry. And I guess we can call this one a rivalry, too. Trevor Reilly.
Yeah, man.
You've been on both sides of this one. Is it a rivalry?
Yeah. Okay, absolutely. It's a regional rivalry. I think
I would say
we
historically,
even have a pact, I think, that we're going to stick together in this conference alignment, if I'm not mistaken.
And historically, it's actually a really quite an even rivalry between Utah and Colorado. There was a break when Colorado went and they were a Big 8, Big 10. Utah, of course, went Pac-12, and then they joined forces again in the Pac-12. So there was a break in the rivalry, but historically, it's been a kind of a border war between two schools that have had some pretty good moments. Utah, early 2000s, Colorado, a little bit before that. What is your perspective now, having been in both of these programs, how they've gotten to this point? Now together again, but taking this route through these different conferences, through different levels and eras of conferences and levels of college football, to Western, I would say, smaller college towns that are trying to make it in big boy college football.
I think that we're fighting right now for second place behind BYU, meaning we don't want to fall behind in the recruiting battle. That's a rivalry to me, okay? And we don't always recruit the same players because they spend a lot more time down south than we do.
Rivalry could be off the field, as you were mentioning.
Absolutely, man.
Recruiting stuff.
We're fighting for players now. Okay, that's where it became, SC, they left here. We were beating them on players at the end. Before they left the Pac-12, Utah was beating USC on players. And who would have thunk that, Porter, 30 years ago? Right. So we talk about Colorado. I wish that Utah and Colorado could merge their teams. I don't think they'd lose. And I say that with all due respect to BYU. I just think that Utah and BYU are built similar. Just BYU's built a little bit better this year. For one reason or another, they're just built a little bit better. And I think it probably has to do with injuries. We've had quite a few injuries at Utah this season. Colorado has a tremendous amount of speed, and they play lot ball. And I like the way they play. They match up. When I say lot ball, it's easier to teach. Cover that guy, beat that guy. And they do some. We do a lot of that at Utah too. But we scheme a lot at Utah now, especially on third. So with the speed and size, these are two teams that kind of mold into each other on the field where good games happen. These are battles now because it's different strategies and totally different ways to play football.
When you say lot ball and you kind of preface it that way, it makes me. And I'll ask you. I'll pose it as a question because I'm not sure this is right, but it feels like Colorado. They kind of have those guys in skill positions, right? Where Dion, a former corner, prime time, right, kind of knows what game breakers are, right?
Yeah.
Kyle Whittingham is paid a bunch of money to keep that offensive line together. He went and got Devin Dampier, which was big, but it feels like the investment for Utah is more in the middle, more that identity. And the investment in Colorado is a little bit more with some of the flash and some of the outside guys, the quarterback.
Yeah. They want
5-star guys at receiver.
That's kind of where the air in Colorado. They have to go through the air.
There's an identity
Absolutely.
Clash that we'll see today.
What's their rushing ranked? They got to be in the bottom 5-10% of the country in rushing. Okay, and I know they love the kid Welch. He's a great back, but they don't run the ball there. Okay, especially when they play a lot of games from behind. So they're going to throw the football, right? They will run with the quarterback a little bit, and they want to run the ball. But again, this week I don't think they're going to be able to. So we're going to see a throwing team versus a running team, and a very unorthodox throwing team at times because
85th in the country
rushing. There you go. They're bottom.
Utah's 6.
It's a totally different type of game, and the quarterback's getting better. By the way, he's trending upwards. This is his first year with his coaching staff. He's a senior, a graduate player, who had a lot of wins. I think he's had some growing up to do coming to the Power 4 level, but he is a guy who's scary because just like last week, he starts running, and then we got real issues. We got real issues when he starts running.
Colorado has a players who, I think you can game plan a good strategy to stop Caden Salters, right? However, he's the type of player that you can execute all that, and then he audibles. You call it off schedule, right?
Yeah,
makes something happen.
Well, yeah, he's going to.
That's tough to defend.
I mean, Darrell, great running back team. Okay, great running back team. That's hard to defend. Great quarterback team though. A team that has a running quarterback. What do you think? How are we going to defend this guy? Are we going to play 2 high safeties because they throw the ball, or are we going to have a spy on this guy? What do you think?
I mean, we'll probably have a spy on this guy, man. You know how we do it.
And that makes it okay. Now we have matchup. So you see what I'm saying? Now we're matching up one-on-one with their receivers, and that's where the game is because we got pretty. I mean, the corners. I don't know too much about them. The corners, they've been playing well. Arizona State, they played well against Tyson. Utah against BYU, they didn't give up too much. I see that. I think it's going to be a great game,
especially Trevor with the depth struggles that we've seen for the Utah defensive backs. Considering the fact that we have seen guys have to step into roles that they weren't playing the start of the year. The defensive backfield for Utah is performed, I think, exceptionally well. And I am curious to see what they do against Colorado. I think Utah probably you'll see a couple of the single high looks. You'll see. I don't know about the spy just because that kind of takes one of your linebackers out of a lot of plays, right? It I guess pinholes one of your linebackers. How do you guys take that when a defense goes spy on your quarterback? If you're on the offense, what options does that give you, right? Because it really does kind of, as we're talking about for fans listening, assigns a linebacker usually one of your middle guys to the quarterback who's a run threat, but it also puts him at a disadvantage because now the quarterback kind of controls him on a string at the same time.
Yeah, it's gonna create the matchup, especially if they got some explosive players on the offensive side. It can be a disadvantage for the defense to an extent. Just being able just to line it up but again, we do run a lot of man.
Yeah.
So we are good at that. But then they got some guys, that they've paid for. Who got some talent over there. So we got to really just be on our toes, I feel like, on defense.
Trevor, if you're maybe you are the spy from a linebacker's perspective. I don't know how many times you actually got that role. You're more on the edge, right?
Mike Leach games. That was when I spied sometimes.
Where's the drawback for a linebacker when you are forced to be the spy? How can a really good quarterback make you pay for that? Because it gives you a vulnerability too.
Think tennis or pickleball. Okay, when you're in the middle of the court, you're going to get crushed. You either stay back or you come up.
Right.
And when you're playing spy, Darrell has a point here about spying. If you spy on this guy, you can take away short passing game. Okay, because you can fake the spy and then you can bluff, or you can show you're going to rush and then you drop. You can if you're running especially some 3-down pressures. Or
no lander first half is a big part of this conversation.
He might have been that guy. I saw him last year, the first play of the game, dang near, almost a pick six on Shedeur, where he dropped. Right, he didn't see him. Right, so some of that underneath coverage that Darrell, somehow I could see that because this guy, he scares me running the ball outside that pocket, dude. Because now you got plaster situations, and Darrell mentioned man. We got guys running down the field now, and we historically, now this season's been better, but we were very bad last year with 50-50 balls.
Right.
against this team specifically I'm talking about. So if they just copy and paste the game plan, right, they didn't do much that was really schematically killing us. We missed some tackles in the run game, and then they ran around back there and they threw the ball up. And it's not like it's not a good, this is what Pittsburgh does now. This is not like a thing where teams don't do this. This is a situation. You can man up. You can match up with these guys, and they want to fight you, one on one.
A lot of the scheme is going to depend on, you got it, the availability. Devin Dampier, maybe, probable. That was the last update. The game day update.
I want the healthy guy, dude.
That comes your way, I want to say about 45 minutes from right now, maybe 30, 45 minutes from right now. You'll get the final update from the Big 12 Conference. But as of now, the latest update has out for Utah, Tobias Merriweather and Dallas Vakalahi. That is in addition to the season-ending injuries that we already know of. Of course, out for the first half is linebacker Lander Barton because of the targeting penalty. And then listed as probable right now is one Devin Dampier. Out for Colorado, wide receiver Hakeem Williams, cornerback Makari Vickers, Simeon Price, the running back Yaya Atia, offensive lineman. Doubtful, R.J. Johnson, and questionable. They got Carter Stoutmeyer and Webb Walker, questionable for Colorado. So we'll give you guys one more update. That'll probably be with Bill and Scott up in the booth. They'll have you the final Big 12 availability update. Two more segments in the Utes Game Day pregame show. Porter Larsen, Trevor Reilly in studio with us now. Darrell Mack, James Peterson back behind the glass on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah quarterback Devin Dampier, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
QB1 Devin Dampier bringing us back in on the Utes Game Day pregame show. Listen to Dishing with Devin each and every week here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. That comes your way on OC's show, the midday program. I'm Porter Larsen, Trevor Reilly, and Darrell Mack in studio with me, the former Utes, talking Utah football ahead of the kickoff with the Buffaloes. 6:15, Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, Stevenson, Sylvester will take over from the Hill. And then, about 8:15 or so, Utah and Colorado go to battle on ESPN. Trevor Reilly, of course, has been on both sides of these games. Colorado and Utah, familiar with both of these rosters, and the matchup that we see, the clash of styles that we see today. I think Trevor kind of decides this football game. If Utah's able to come in here and run the football as they have this season. They are first in the Big 12, sixth in the country against a Colorado team who their identity is not that. I think if Utah can establish the run, control the time of possession, and really limit the amount of possessions that Caden Salters gets and Colorado gets to what I would say try to establish consistent drives, because I think that's going to be the struggle for Colorado is getting chunk stuff, right, consistently. I think that's kind of how this game is decided, and I think it lends to Utah's favor in that regard.
It makes it easier to defend a team that doesn't run the ball. Right. Tell you what now. They don't want to run the ball sometimes.
Get a lead and kind of force that.
Then you can say, well, and I go back to that 2018 defense, 2019. We were stopping teams. I wasn't on that. I was on the offensive side, but I was on that staff. He was stopping teams with too high on first and second down. They were giving up under 4 yards a carry.
Well, and
he has the game plan to do that, and we may see that. That's why the spy thing, right? That's another thing. That we could see both. We could see both. If one of them is not working, we could see that.
Well, and the reason that 2018-2019 era defense was so good at that is because they could just play straight up. They could just rush four. Scally could.
And you can double.
Could double.
You can double two guys, dude. Now you're making them play left-handed.
When you were on that offensive staff, Trevor, take me inside that a little bit. When you're on the offensive staff and you are tasked with every day in practice going up against a defense that, get this, put 12 defensive players from that era of Utes played in the NFL.
I'll tell you how efficient Coach Witt was, D-Mac. I was practicing with the team in 2018. Okay, I was in shoulder pads and helmet.
I actually watched that happen.
I had just gotten out of a Super Bowl team, right? Albeit the practice squad at the end, but they cut me for Harrison in week 17. They brought me back. We lost, and then I was done. And so I go back to school, and it's like, all right, it's fall, and we run out of players in like October.
Your last snap was in a Super Bowl then?
Yeah, well, I didn't play in that game. I was on the sideline with Steph Curry and the crew watching Bieber at halftime or wherever it was.
There we go.
I watched the halftime show and cheered him on and wondered why Malcolm Butler didn't get in the game. But that's neither here or there. The point is, okay, it was a wild, wild time at Utah.
Right.
And we were so good on defense that Nephi Sewell was on the practice squad, okay?
Mika Tafua was not getting many reps.
No. A lot of guys weren't playing, dude, and so we had some. And I went to go bang with some of these guys, and these offensive linemen, to the point I wanted to make, they were really putting it on people. Okay, this guy can hit, and then you look, well, he's playing against Lecky every day. He's getting a lot of smoke, dude.
Lecky Fotu, Bradley and John Penasini.
They were unbelievable, bro.
Devin Lloyd couldn't
Barton,
get on the field.
Barton, Hansen. Oh, yeah. Okay, hey. Burgess.
Devin Lloyd was being limited to backup reps.
How about the other safety from Layton, who's the best open field tackler I've ever seen?
Julian Blackman, Terrell Burgess, Jalen Johnson.
Bryce McCain, no, excuse me, not Bryce McCain.
Josh Nurse was a
corner,
guy
number one, who's
Jalen
from Marietta. The other one, the short one who was faster.
Clark Phillips.
No, the one before him. You're on the right track, though. The point is these guys, that's it. Guidry's the guy.
Guidry played for the Jets.
That's him.
Several years.
The team had a tremendous amount of guys, and what happens when you have that type of defense, iron sharpens iron. They almost like set the tempo for the offense for the next 4 years.
Right.
There's an argument to me that 2018-19, they set the table for how this is how it's supposed to be.
Well, it also gave, when you have a defense like that, it gives your offense freedom.
Oh, man.
Cam Rising and Tyler Huntley played with a lightness, like an enjoyment that quarterbacks at Utah before them didn't enjoy. They didn't have.
Dude,
Travis Wilson never played like a light game where he felt like everything was in front of him because, man, that offense was, number one, running the football a lot. But, outside of that game against Oregon, you never saw that Utah team really have 50-plus points.
Because Kayvon Thibodeau about won the game for him by himself. He blocked a punt. He had sack strip fumbles. He had a touchdown.
He was a monster.
But the best part about the story is that I was having a good practice. I was hitting these guys up a little bit. But one day, Senny came out for practice. Okay, Senny was an undergraduate. Came back from Germany. He's playing pro ball in Germany. And Senny and Coach Witt didn't know he was practicing. Really, he didn't know he was in. The scout team was now in servicing the starters. Okay, so Senny's playing D tackle. Senny's about 5'10.5".
Yeah.
260. They couldn't get a playoff. And so Coach Witt's like, "Yo, what is going on?" And he's like, "Oh, Senny's in there. Get the hell out, Senny. He shuts get him out, dude. Get him out." And he retired Senny after Senny only got 4 plays, and they retired him. He put his helmet. Oh, that's it, dude. I'm out.
So Senny playing some post playing career scout team reps. Trevor Reilly.
How'd you guys do that?
Is done it.
They allowed it back then. Quinton Ganther used to go against us. When
you never told me that. That was a secret.
That's cool. Hey, Q was trying to sweat it out and lose some weight. All right, he was getting in shape, dude.
Nice.
He was really retired, man.
Morgan, I've seen Morgan. At the very least, I've seen Morgan get real physical with those pads.
Yeah,
where he wasn't wearing a helmet, but he was fully involved in a play because he had the pad in front of him. I have seen Scally do that.
Yeah, he looks like Vrabel, man. And I was getting ready. Dennis Erickson, Pablo Cano was like, "Yo, you've been practicing. Why don't you go play with the minor league team?"
Yeah.
I went down and played with Dennis in the Stallions.
The Stallions.
But they don't have
Long live the Stallions.
We used to Coach Witt was a master at finding those loopholes and those rules, and we got a lot of value out of that, dude. A lot of value.
Coach Witt is really good at knowing right up to the line how long you can practice, when you can practice, the dates you can practice, who you can practice with, where those guys can practice when they're not practicing with you.
He knows how to beat the Matrix, dude. That's Keanu Reeves, bro. He's over there beating up.
How can these guys get together without us being involved? That's part of this game, especially now that they are essentially paid pro athletes in a lot of regards. All right, let's take a break so we can get back and get to the final segment where we'll get our final score predictions, our keys to the game, and more before we send it over to Bill, Scott, and Sly. It is Utes Game Day. Porter Larsen, Trevor Reilly, Darrell Mack here with us on Utah's #1 sports talk. And your home of Utah football for 70-plus years. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Hey y'all, this is O-Block member Spencer Fano, and you're listening to Utah Football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Final segment of the Utes Game Day pregame show before we hand it over to one Bill Reilly, the former Utah quarterback great Scott Mitchell, former Detroit Lion, Miami Dolphin, and more. He'll be there with Stevenson Sylvester, the former Pittsburgh Steeler. Sly was with the Bills for a moment as well.
He was around there. He was on there. He tore his Achilles
Where
there.
Else?
He was in Pittsburgh. I went to his house in Pittsburgh when we were the Utes. We went out and played Pitt. We beat him, by the way. We beat Aaron Donald twice. And we went to Sly's house. Me and Martinez, and a few other guys. We went to Sly's house, and it was freaking cool, dude.
Sly was my co-host for the first 5 years I did this show before he started doing the broadcast stuff. It was it's interesting. There's been a lot of really, really good ball players that have been connected with the radio broadcast and then either playing and or coaching up there or going back and forth between one of the two. Sharif Shah was part of this radio team for a while, as was Sly, Isaac Asiata, go through the whole crew.
Morgan didn't. Mac, you might remember this. Didn't Morgan do radio before he became a GA with you?
Oh yeah,
Morgan did a little bit of it. He still does his coordinator's corner. Shout out.
I think it was him and Sharif, right?
Sharif was our sideline reporter. So a lot of intertwinement there. Isaac was my last co-host on the pregame show, and then, well, Kyle offered him a job, so he left me.
Isaac's a cop, isn't he?
Isaac is not a cop at the moment.
That's right, but he has. I'm hoping he carries in that building. That's neither here or there. But I'd like to have a policeman in there.
I think he's technically got a badge and still does his thing.
I'm sorry, that's been on my mind. Everybody, it's been on my mind.
Officer Asiata.
I always used to think, dude, anybody can just walk in here, dude.
I will say,
they tightened it up a little bit now.
Yeah, there's a nice door in the front.
If you're going to be a cop, I'm glad guys like Isaac are.
Yeah,
he's a protector. He's like
bullets,
a legit
dude.
protector.
He's huge. Got good feet.
Before
that kitchen.
Before we get to the yeah, you do. You got to protect that kitchen from Isaac.
He likes to eat. Okay.
Hey, he's an offensive lineman. That's part of the game. How about a little college football scoreboard update for you before we get to our picks for the game? We'll update you on the final lines that have actually moved in Utah's direction. So we'll tell you what those are and go from there. How about an overtime matchup in the SEC? 45-38. Texas now has the lead over Mississippi State. They overcame a 17-point fourth quarter deficit, and now they have the lead in overtime. Wisconsin and Oregon scoreless still in the second quarter. Stanford has a 7-0 lead over top 10 Miami. Dude, going into halftime.
Andrew Luck is on that sideline running around, dude. Did you see him on that sideline? No headset. He's coaching everything, dude.
It's a new age in college football. He's the GM of a football program, and he's down there running the show.
Bro, you should have seen us at the Islanders. We had no headsets, okay? Darrell's running. We're running around there, and it's fun. I'm telling you, I love watching him, dude.
And out coaching the other team.
Dude. I love watching Luck.
Louisville, 7-3 lead over Boston College. Michigan, 3-0 lead over Michigan State. Tennessee is up 7-0 over Kentucky. And how about some Big 12 action? Arizona State and Houston scoreless in the first quarter, still there. And now we head over to the game of the day here in Salt Lake City. It is Utah. It is Colorado. Utah and the Buffs, as we've talked about, you can call it a rivalry. I think that it's maybe waned a little bit just because of before Deion, Colorado wasn't good for a long time. And Utah kind of steamrolled them. So it didn't feel like a rivalry for a good while, but they've traded barbs over the last couple of years. And with Deion there's at least more energy for Colorado. Trevor Reilly had his say in that, I do believe. But right now, Utah is a 13.5 point favorite. Wow. 13.5 points for Utah. They are the favorites here today over the Colorado Buffaloes. Colorado's 1-3 in Big 12 play. But, Trevor, they're coming off a bye. Is 13.5 points too much to give Utah, knowing that Colorado's coming off a bye and Utah's coming off a tough rivalry loss?
Yes.
That's too many points?
I thought it was too many when they played BYU. This team thrives in night games. Okay, they give good effort. They like to play in the night. And they got speed. And anytime you get speed, you got a shot. As we saw, we've seen everywhere that the teams we've lost to, they have speed. And even though we're top 5 in rushing, our defense is probably top 10 in most categories. We're not running down the field as well in offense. They have that ability, which gives, we talked about Salters. He can score after a lot of 3-and-outs, man, or a lot of bad plays, and he can put one up there on you. Bomb it down the field, he'll run for 40 yards. So we got to be on our P's and Q's, and they whooped us last year. I mean, we quit on that game. I was on the sideline, dog. We did not look good.
Yeah.
The whole thing was, and I don't blame anything except for the whole thing just was bad, man.
Darrell Mack.
Yes.
Utes get the W today?
I mean, that's a lot of points. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that. They got a lot of talent, a lot of great players on the team. I think just having that bye week and us coming off that tough game, they're going to be ready to try to put it on tape and show everybody. So I think we can pull it off. It's just going to be a lot closer. I don't think it's going to be a whole 13 points.
The over-under also set at 50.5. It's now down to 49.5. James Peterson back behind the glass, the engineer of the operations here on a football game day. James, Utah has 13.5 points. They're 2 touchdown favorites. The over-under as we go into kickoff is 49.5. What say you?
I think they're going to win by 3 touchdowns, guys.
I hear you.
Let's go. Get right, game.
I hear you.
James has the
I'm
Utes
open,
covering.
baby.
Attitude. I like that.
Going
Let's
over.
go. 42-21. Let's go.
Okay,
James is taking the over and the Utes
I'm
covering.
taking the Buffs and the over.
Oh.
Okay, now Buffs meaning the points.
Trevor on the
points.
Ute Game Day pregame show.
Man, you
Trevor.
know what? Someone has to tell the truth around here.
Let's hear it.
I was thinking about
I'm
that.
just kidding, dude.
Buffs getting the points, but you think they have enough to win in Rice Eccles today?
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. I want to see the backup play only because the starter's hurt.
Okay.
I don't like seeing 80% quarterbacks.
I'm kind of with you
I
there.
don't like that, especially if they're short. Gosh dang it, they can't get out of there.
And last week it was game plannable. You knew when Devin was in, he was trying to throw it. You knew when Burt came in, he was going to run it. That's something that's hard on an offensive coordinator to like not be predictable in that role. I'm with you. I want to see a little bit of Burt if Devin can't go. From what I understand, Devin has been hampered and limited in practice, but full throttle go ahead from him. It's up to the training staff and the coaches of who they go with today. I'm taking Utah. I think they cover, but I'm taking the under. I'm going Utah 30, Colorado.
In my chess app, they
13.
call it a book move. Okay, that was a book call right there.
That's a
taking
book
the
call.
Utes in the under. That's a book call.
That's a book call. Sorry, the book wins.
Yeah,
There's
it
a
does.
reason they build another casino out there every year.
Porter, you know something.
That's been the Utes Game Day pregame show. Trevor Reilly, Darrell Mack, James Peterson behind the glass. We'll hand it over to Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, and Stevenson Sylvester for Utah and Colorado at Rice Eccles Stadium and right here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.